Hi, it's Elizabeth Willits here from Investing in Women, and we are live on Facebook and on LinkedIn. And today I'm going to be talking with Dipal Shah from Diva Consulting. I'm going to be talking all about how you can confidently thrive on your return to work after maternity leave or a career break. So as people are logging on and starting to watch, if you can let us know if you can hear us all right, that'd be fab. Give us a like or an emoji. But we are live today on Facebook and on LinkedIn, and we're going to be talking all about how you can confidently thrive on your return to work after maternity leave or a career break with Dipal Shah from Diva Consulting. So thank you for everyone that's watching today, and thank you so much, Dipal, for joining us on this topic. I'm really, really excited to discuss. I had a lot of messages from people that are excited to watch it as well. So yeah, it's going to be an actionable session with hopefully a lot of takeaways for you to take with you. So so before we start, Deepal, do you want to talk us through a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thank you for having me today. I am actually really excited as well, so I can go on, so tell me to stop. So I am from Diva Coaching, and I support women who are going back to work after maternity leave or career breaks, and actually rebuilding that confidence, and also giving you back that self-worth that you might lose over that period. I think from experience and from my clients and other people, I kind of realize that when you're that time that you have off, that year and a half, whether it's 3 months, whatever it is, you go back a different person to work. And I don't think it's ever the same. And I think, remember, I think people forget what you've been through. Going through a birth and labor, it's traumatic. The impact it can have on your mental, if you've been through postnatal depression, there's so many factors that can affect your return to work in itself. And I think people underestimate that. I think people going back to work thinking everything's going to be the same. It's all good. I have my childcare sorted, right, ready to go. But actually, it's a whole different experience. And I think you do. And I think one of the things that I learned as well throughout my business and what I help with women is going through sort of the values and everything that changes in the time that they've been away. So that's one of the things I do is actually helping the women see that going back to work, yes, it is, it can be daunting, but at the same time you can make it work. But it's about lowering your expectations sometimes and actually, being true to yourself and being authentic as well when you go back to work, and not just, oh, everything's going to be fine.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. Good. I mean, you know, I just Mother Pucker, I've seen her share a picture. Someone saying, "Enjoy your break," and then there's a woman like drowning under all these kids' responsibilities. So yeah, I mean, I think that's another thing, isn't it? It's the preconception of what maternity leave is. You sort of go on maternity leave, don't you? Thinking, I'll be honest, I went on it thinking it was going to be a break, it's going to be a year-long holiday. It isn't, and then and so when you're on maternity leave, I don't think you realise what it's like. So it's also about educating colleagues and employers on really what you've been through and what that year's been like as well.
Yeah, exactly, isn't it? I think, the first 6 weeks, probably your first 12 weeks, I say, the survival of maternity leave, isn't it? I mean, like you feed, you're going through the whole breastfeeding, it's awful. You're almost like, oh, I just want
to exhausted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So what motivated you to want to help other women on their return to work?
One was, I think, having experience coaching myself. And that was when I was actually going through it myself as well. So I went back to work after I had my first. I've got 2 boys. And I actually come from an investment banking background, which I worked there for almost 15 years. So straight from university, had this amazing career, being successful, and I had this baby, and I returned to work, and it was almost like, oh, whoa, what's going on? Who am I? Almost. I think I lost who I was in myself. And it was a really interesting experience for me. And I thought I needed things to change. I wasn't prepared. my mind and everything. And I don't think at the first time, I don't think I got the help that I really needed. Don't get me wrong. I think, the company I was with, they gave me some support, but probably not the right support. And then I was also had new friends who were mums, and they were experiencing very similar things to me. And we always had these conversations about what's happening at work, and people are talking about their return and
Yeah.
flexible working. There was so much discussion, and I think it motivated me to actually. There's so many women out there who need the support, who feel so let down, or they feel they're not heard, they're misunderstood, and that's where my motivation came from as well. It's just helping other women. And I thought, no, you know what? I want to help. People go back and feel confident in going back, and not feel that they can't speak to the managers or their teams or their colleagues, etc. And actually, as you mentioned as well, helping employers and colleagues as well to understand where women are coming from.
Yeah. And it can be quite patchy, can't it? Return to it. And everyone has different experiences. And a lot of it actually boils down to your manager as well. You can be in the same company as somebody else, and it's very, very patchy.
It is, and I think it's also departments. Every department is different. I mean, yes, I worked for the large investment banks, and every department had different ways of dealing with it.
Yeah.
So depending on what you're doing, it's all different, and everyone, as you say, it's very patchy.
Yeah. So what when clients come to you for support, what typically motivates them to contact you, and why do they seek you out, and what support are they looking for?
I think they're looking for that person to listen to them. They want to be heard. They want to feel like there's someone out there who can support them, who can coach them, who can challenge them, who can actually keep them accountable as well.
Yeah.
And it's also about listening. I think the main thing is about listening. And I think, when my clients come to me, they're all most of them have probably had very different, as you mentioned, very different experiences with their return, or they're looking to go back, and they've had, their first year of maternity leave hasn't been the best. They might not have had the best pregnancy, they might not have the best birth, they've not had the best, like sleepless nights. So going back to work for them, it's almost traumatic experience as well, because they're like, how can I deal with all of this? And going back and working in these professional, being a professional at work, but at the same time so sleep deprived.
Yeah.
They're worried about time. They're worried about how they're going to manage. So that's where a lot of my sort of clients, and they come to me going, help me. Like, how can I go back feeling, not looking as though I've gone through 3 rounds, in a boxing match. They just want to be able to go back going, I am focused at work, and I am the person who's going to thrive at work.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we talked a little bit about the common feelings that are sort of experienced by returners. So if someone, like you said, they come back, they were often worried about how they're going to sort of juggle the mother load and also sleepless nights and perform their role. So if someone's watching this and is worried themselves about how they're going to juggle and find the balance and be, a present parent, present and perform well at work, what advice would you give them?
Firstly, I think also one of the other experiences, as you mentioned, I think it's also mum guilt. The biggest thing that a lot of the clients will feel is mum guilt. And when they come to me and say, I'm feeling this huge guilt, and I say to them, you know what? It's all in your head. Mum guilt, it doesn't actually exist. It exists in here because we've come to this point where in society and maybe social media, where you see these sometimes pictures of these perfect people, and this whole comparison. So I've got to be someone who can be everything. I've got to be the mum. I need to provide for my family. I need to be this working professional. I need to be organizing birthday parties or play dates.
A lot of that. I'm in a WhatsApp group for school. Oh my gosh, it's like a full-time job just managing the WhatsApp group. The amount of messages that come through.
Oh, it's terrible, isn't it? I mean, it's that whole, just preparing for some of this because there is, as you say, WhatsApp groups, and then you have another 10 sets of WhatsApp groups from that one WhatsApp group. And it's managing all of that. And, I think one of the biggest things is setting your expectations.
Yeah.
Do it while you're on maternity leave. So I find, so a lot of women or clients who come to me and they say, well, when I was pre-maternity leave, that if they've, married or they've have a partner, a lot of those responsibilities were shared.
Mm-hmm.
Or a lot of the home responsibilities were shared. Now, going on maternity leave, I think the expectation is that the woman takes a lot more of it on.
Yeah.
And everyone gets used to this sort of another routine, don't you? After being home for a year, you get used to a routine, and actually the woman ends up doing everything.
Yeah.
I know I've had similar experiences.
Yeah.
And it's about actually setting those expectations before you go on maternity leave with your partner.
Yeah.
Or if you're a single mom, it's having sort of discussions with someone around within your support network, and actually being open in your communication and telling them what's going to happen, as you go back to work, and kind of saying, look, buying a birthday present for your mom is not my responsibility.
Yeah.
I did it for a little while. It's now your time,
Yeah.
and having those shared calendars as well, and saying, look, this is what's happening. And as you say, being part of WhatsApp groups, and it's interesting you say that. I think now I'm finding more and more dads are actually now coming onto the school WhatsApp groups.
Good. Yeah.
Which is really good, because actually if you're not taking that full responsibility on, whether your child is at nursery, whether your children are at school, it's kind of sharing that workload and not being the only one to actually book parents' consultations, parents' evenings.
Yeah.
It's got to be shared.
It adds up that time, doesn't it? It's more time consuming than you think. So
well, it's all those small things, and you think about actually, so it's managing expectations at home
mm-hmm.
before you go back to work, and saying, look, we've got to, agree, some sort of time here. We've got to agree that on these days, this is what I'm going to be doing, and this is what you're going to be doing. Or it's a case of, on a Saturday, I'm taking 2 hours for myself.
Yeah.
These 2 hours, I'm leaving the house. Do what you want with the child. It's up to you. It's your responsibility. I'm going.
Yeah.
And for you not to then feel afraid of doing that as well, and for you to be able to let go.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people women especially find it hard to let go, because they've had that control for a year or many years it could be. They've had that control of being the CEO of your household.
Mm-hmm.
You had that control, and then
I know. I'm nodding my head because it's just silly. Like the washing, I'll be honest, I do most of the washing, but then my husband does it, and I'm like, things up, they're never gonna dry. And I think, well, and then it sort of takes a lot of effort not to correct that, because you don't want to take an extra job.
Well, this is it, isn't it? Because if you say something, you're kind of going, oh, I don't want them to think that I'm going to be doing this again, and I want them to still continue to do it. So it's really interesting. I think it's always setting those expectations and those boundaries and communicating with your partner beforehand.
Yeah.
And then also, before you go back as well, is actually communicating with your manager.
Yeah.
I think it's so important. Those kit days that you have, you've got up to 10 days of kit. Use them wisely.
Yeah.
Speak to your managers, set meetings up with them, and actually tell them what. I think there's always that expectation when you go back to work, your managers will give you their objectives. Here you go. This is what your ex is expected of you. This is what you need to do. But actually, you can also communicate back and saying, well, these are my expectations.
Yeah.
This is what I'm planning to do as well, and this is how what I'm going to focus on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's really, a case of a two-way communication for both sides. It's, having that home communication both ways with your partner, but also having the other communication with your manager, make it two ways. So being really clear with your boundaries and what you're focusing on.
Yeah. Okay.
And also, I think one of the things is also time. I hear so many of my clients saying, I just don't have time for anything. And
I was going to say, being a parent, like time is like the most precious commodity. There isn't. I feel there's not enough time. You've got 24 hours. You've got sleep.
That's the thing. I think we forget. You've got 24 hours. Time's a constant. It's never going to change.
Yeah.
But I think in today's society, we have this thing where everyone has to be always busy.
Yeah.
And that's where we fall back on. We think, okay, I'm going back to work. I'm not going to have time to go for a coffee with a friend. I'm not going to have time for a walk. I'm not going to have time to call the plumber, go to the dentist, all those small things. And you think, well, how am I going to manage all these tasks at work as well? Like, it's just don't have enough time. I'm working part-time, for example. Like, there's not enough hours. I should have gone full-time. No, it's all these things that you take on.
Yeah.
And it's about managing that time and saying, okay, what am I prioritizing? And being able to say no to commitments. And especially at work, when you're going back, there's always that tendency to want to please everybody. Because you're going back and you're thinking, oh, yeah, I'm back. I want to prove myself. So actually, I'm going to say yes to every project that comes along because I don't want to lose out of a promotion or I don't want to lose out here. It's that. But I think you've got to manage your capacity and how much you can take on.
Yeah.
And how much is going to affect your mental well-being, because if you're taking too much on at work, you might be working more than it's normal. A lot of women, then they log in the evening after coming back from work because they're like, well, I never managed to finish this. So again, it's about communicating with your manager and talking about your capacity and your workload and letting them know, look, this is where I am. And actually keeping those communication lines open.
Yeah.
And not shutting down.
Yeah, absolutely. So also there'll be people that are watching this that are concerned that they might have lost skills and experience in their absence. So what advice would you give to them?
Oh, I would turn that around and say, actually, what skills have you gained?
Yeah.
Rather than lost.
Yeah.
There's so many people who may have taken career breaks, and I've had clients where they have, and then they come and they go, I'm not valued. I'm seen at home as just the person who'll do the washing, the cooking, the person who'll organize everything. And it kind of almost challenged them and say, well, okay, turn it around and say, well, what have you learned from this and what have you experienced? And and there are some parents who become part of their school PTA.
Yeah.
Which is great because what you learn, you're working as part of a team. You have to organize events. You're networking. So, you're building up a network. So it's very similar to working in an organization. You're engaging in team meetings, providing your ideas. Your core part of that team in your goal is very much, providing for the school, making enough funds so that your school has enough funds. So I think people forget, actually, you do these things, you might volunteer for something, and organizing 30 kids, 15, 16, however many kids, it's difficult.
Absolutely.
So, you might be volunteering for a school trip. Trust me, you've probably learned a lot and gained how to deal with these, and conflicts in schools. There's always these small things. I think you realize what you've actually achieved.
Yeah.
And even at home, like how much organization you've probably had to do to ensure you've got a good routine, being a taxi driver, if you've got the kids have got activities all the time.
Yeah.
I know I'm always, feeling that, managing that time. So actually, I don't think there's any skills that you've lost. I think you've gained a lot more.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I was going to say, even if you're not in the PTA, but you're just going to baby groups, you're networking, you're meeting other people. My kids fight all the time, so I always think I would have brilliant conflict management skills. I could probably go into a war zone and
Well, this is it.
between two terrorists, the amount they fight.
I mean, my boys are always constantly arguing, and it's almost like, okay, how do I, conflict resolution? I mean, it's a huge thing, and actually, in your family, working as a team as part of in your family, working together to, get the same goal. So everything that you've gained, and it's here networking, because you might be on maternity leave, and you might find, women in a group like baby massage, but you've networked with about 5 or 6 women who are in that.
Yeah.
So actually, you've gained so much more, and you've achieved so much more. And it pains me when I see women come to me and they say to me, "Look, just lost. I don't have any skills. I just feel this is all I am." And it's like, no, you're not. It's not true. You are amazing with what you've achieved.
Yeah.
Remember, and also, I think, again, back to my first initial point, remember what you've been through.
You've built up a lot of resilience as well during that year.
Yes.
That's good, and that's so transferable back.
Well, I think it's that whole, you kind of feel like you've just grown up. I mean, I don't know about you, but I think if I think back to who I was pre-kids, I was this really independent, fiery, probably just out everywhere, doing anything I wanted, almost having some, something to take care of, like a responsibility, and think, wow, I've just grown up all of a sudden. I'm actually now a mum.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think it's the ability to see the bigger picture as well, isn't it? That is good, and you can take that to work as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just don't shy away, and it's also, you can, there's so much available out there in terms of adding new skills. You can do other volunteering work as well. If you say you are on a career break and you feel, actually, do you know what, my kids are at nursery or they're at school, I've got an hour or 2 that I can take, and I'm going to go and volunteer for something. Do that. I think it will really help you as well to clear your mind and build up your skills as well. There's now courses that people can do online as well.
It's so easy to do online courses, and most of them are pretty affordable, or you probably get free courses as well. So
and I think it's always, and go back to that question of why, what you want to do and why. What's the dream? Where, dreaming big, your goals. What are your goals? Where do you want to be? Because this will help everything that you do. And I know, as we mentioned before, people say, "Oh, the time, I just don't have the time for any of this." But you do, because I have lots of women who come to me and say, "Oh, I binge watched Netflix."
Yeah.
Like, we're all capable. We've all done it.
Yeah.
I've done this before, and then I look and I think, gosh, that was the worst thing I could have done. In that 3 hours, I could have done something else.
Yeah. And social media is a time suck, isn't it? You're on Facebook, you're scrolling, and then you go and click on something, you click on something else. So things like that, pretty time sucking.
You've got to then find your triggers and say, "Oh, I've gone and got on Facebook," as you say, like, okay, it's been an hour. There's things, a way of managing it, and saying, actually, put a time restriction. So, for example, with my business, when I go on to Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, I'll have a time limit.
Yeah.
I'll actually put an alarm on my phone, and then that's it, and then I'm done. Because if I don't, I know, and I have done this before, I will scroll and I will scroll.
It's just aimless, isn't it, in the end? Yeah.
And it's about also sleep. I think it's so important as well that in all of this is sleep. I know it's hard with the younger kids, because there are children who find it really difficult to sleep without their mums or their dads, and then it's a constant, they wake up at night. But whenever you can, and you have those odd good days, go to sleep.
Yeah, because you feel so much better, don't you? You're more productive, and everything, energized. Everything feels better if you've had a good night's sleep. Yeah.
I went off there a bit on the question around skills, but it's all part of this thing.
Definitely. So, if someone is returning to work, what is the best way for them to reconnect with whole teams, stakeholders, and colleagues?
I think it's, again, using those kit days. I think it's really important. And I know at the moment, a lot of companies are doing hybrid working.
Yeah.
So it's always a good day as well to find out what days they're going to be in the office.
Yeah.
So you then actually be able to go in and speak to them face to face. There's nothing like a good face-to-face conversation with somebody. I mean, we've all had to get used to online meetings, etc., which is great. But going into an office environment as well,
Yeah.
Being away from home sort of life,
Yeah.
is
Push your work mode. Yeah.
yeah. Going in, getting in touch with people beforehand, a good few months beforehand. Once you know your clear schedule in terms of if you've requested flexible working, and that's all been approved. Once you know, speaking to your managers and asking them, what projects are coming out, working, actually reaching out to your manager and saying, okay, who am I going to be working with? What projects am I doing, etc. And then reaching out to those people within the team and setting up a meeting. It could even be you meet for coffee outside of the office. I don't know, different companies have different ways of working. But it's just a way of you reconnecting with everybody and also connecting with your colleagues again and just hearing them out, listening to what they're saying. But there's also that danger that you don't fall into that gossip trap as well. So I think from experience, from what I remember, you're going back to work and there's always some new people who started, and then you've got the older colleagues you might know for a while, and there's always that people talk about others. So it's about trying to remain, I guess, not forming your own opinion and not trying to listen to other people, because if management has changed, everyone's going to have an opinion. So it's about staying focused about what your goal is and not getting too worked up in terms of, oh gosh, this person said this, so if I'm going in, what are they going to think about me? Oh my God, there's all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You don't want to have that on you, because you're going back and you're going back almost as if you're a first timer as well. So I think that's another thing, is a kind of setting that expectation with your employer and saying, just remember, I'm coming back after you. I'm almost like a starter. If it is maternity leave, you're going back as someone who started again. There might be some new systems you might have to learn again, So I think colleagues and managers do forget that, but I think it's up to you to remind them, look, I have just come back. I'm still, finding my feet. But it is worth having those conversations with any stakeholders, any colleagues, always. And one thing I always say is, before you go on maternity leave, find your support actually at work. Support somebody who is, is still there, who's going to be there when you return, but someone who'll help you out when you get to work as well. Sort of having almost like a mentor, or somebody that sort of knows what's happening. I think that will really help you when you do return to work as well, just having that sort of support. So like you have a support network, as a mom, you might have your friends, etc., but it's always having a good support network as well at work.
Yeah, at work. Yeah, absolutely. Seeking somebody out.
Yeah.
So would you advise somebody, if they can, to develop a 3-month plan? And if they were to think about a 3-month plan on their return, what things should they be thinking about, and how they can really, come back with impact, purpose, with setting barriers? So what will be the best things to put in your 3-month plan?
Start with your values.
One
thing is absolutely start with your values and where you sit now versus what you might have done a year or two ago. Because that's going to really help you once you know where you want to go as well in your, after your 3 months, sort of almost when you've hit it, and actually what you want to be doing in those 3 months as well.
Yeah.
I think it's also really important that in your 3-month plan, you have that communication beforehand with your managers.
Yeah.
Set those objectives up before you go.
Yeah.
So when you go in, you're not shocked.
Mm-hmm.
You're not, surprised.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And maybe even when you go in with a plan before you go, your 3 months, kind of do it as a trial run as well with your managers. Can we see how this goes? Can I check in after 2 weeks, 10 days, however long it might take? Can I check in with you? Where am I at? Sort of have a plan to say, okay, let me meet with my manager every 10 days for the first 3 months to see
Yeah.
how we're doing, and they can give me feedback as well,
Mm-hmm.
as well as me giving feedback.
Yeah.
Make it a two-way feedback, just so that you're a bit more prepared, and then you've got that support. And also with your colleagues as well, prepare that time before you go, have that plan to actually, well, before I go, I'll just get in contact with them, see what's happening, so you know what they're working on, and also set your expectations up with them. So there's, you've got that 3 month. I think it's about, I think there's 3 months you can plan. You can plan everything at home,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure your childcare is in place, making sure you have your backup plan as well, for those 3 months, because you just never know what's going to happen, and you don't want to panic in those 3 months. You want to be focused at work. You're going back, and check in with yourselves. I think it's really important as well that you've factored in any time for yourself within those 3 months. So
Mm-hmm.
make that time in those 3 months for yourself and check in with yourself
Yeah.
and how you are. Plan it, journal if you have to.
Yeah.
That's going to help you get through those first 3 months of going back,
Yeah.
of how you're feeling, or whether this is the right thing for you, or whether you need to reach out to somebody, in your workplace. It could be HR, etc. But it's about keeping those communication lines open as
Yeah.
well at home, I think. And as I said, with your managers, you've just got to make sure that you're prepared for anything that might happen.
Yeah. Absolutely. And how do you think that employers and colleagues can support people that are coming back from maternity leave or a career break?
Well, I think this is where employers, and especially I think management, sort of need to be aware of what the person going back from maternity leave has been through.
Yeah.
That they've been away for maybe a year, it could be a year and a half, it could be 3 years, whatever it is that they've been away for, that they've had this time off, and that they are starting again. They're not, coming back after a 2-week holiday. They can just pick up where they left off. And for them to be mindful of anything that might have happened, that could be something, and be mindful of the fact that they may have gone through postnatal depression, and they may still be going through some of that.
Yeah.
Because it can affect, the workplace, because it can get triggered again. That anxiety, etc., can get triggered. So I think it's really important that employers as well lower their expectations, and not think that, okay, you know what, this person can go straight into this big project that's coming along. Great, let's just throw them in. And actually, you might be a person who wants to be thrown in.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. That's fine. Or you might be someone, actually, I don't want to be thrown into it. I just want to see how it goes. Have, again, employees just maybe ask the person.
Yeah. It's about having the communication lines open,
Yeah.
and not really making assumptions on what that person wants or can take on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it literally is, the employer should ask the person, saying, okay, well, do you think you can take this on? Or shall we see how it goes?
Yeah.
If there's anything that I can help you with, let me know, because I know, you've just come back. I think because some employers are very fast-paced environment. I mean, I know investment banking. It was very fast
So
paced.
you were really fast paced.
Yeah, you know, got to be done, you know, today. There is no, and some. So I think employers have got to be mindful of the fact that person's coming in, and that person might be ready to take on everything that you throw at them.
Yeah.
But there might be somebody who's not ready for that. But ask them, see what they want. Don't assume that they, you know, that they can't do it or they can do it. I think it's that. And, you know, just as I said, I think employers and colleagues as well, just be mindful of how that, I guess it's about judging and no judgment. Just because there's one person on another team that came out from maternity leave was amazing, and there's that.
You hear a lot of that. So and so could do it, or so and so, you know, or so and so was like that. Yeah, it's all. You know, we talked about a little bit earlier, didn't we, about comparing ourselves to social media. There's a lot of people comparing us to other people. So.
Well, I think that's that whole judgment, isn't it? Don't judge. Like, just because that person could do it doesn't mean that this person can do it. Your person on your team, you know. Don't be quick to assume and judge, because that person might be feeling really down and they might be nervous about having to send their child to nursery, whereas the other person might not have been nervous to send their child to nursery. So every single person who deals with their return is different. So you can't assume that each person needs the same, I guess, attention or communicate. Every person is different. I think that's where employers have to understand that.
Yeah.
You can't, and the, you know, colleagues as well. You know, I think I had one person I remember saying to me, "Oh, I'm going back from maternity leave, and I'm worried because I trained somebody up when I was back then, and now they might think that I'm this, you know, because I'm a mum now." They might think I don't know anything, and like they're going to be training me, and I feel really uncomfortable. And you know, it's that whole. It's about making the person coming back to feel comfortable again, and not making them think that they're worthless just because they're mum, that they can't do it.
Yeah.
Actually, mums, they're a lot better than me.
Oh my gosh, crazy. I mean, yeah, I feel like I've learned so much becoming a mum, but I think it takes a while to get to that point where you feel confident. I mean, it took me a while to get to that point where I feel confident. I did learn skills. I did, you know, I built on things. I didn't lose them. I perfected them. But I remember when I first was coming back from maternity leave, having those other feelings. So
yeah, I mean, it's really hard, isn't it? Like some women, they do feel that they're going back and they do feel judged and being like, "Oh, this person probably thinks because I'm leaving work early, I'm not focused," and that's not true. And I think this is where colleagues can be a little bit more sensitive to situations and be like, "Okay, I get," and also being, if there's an event, work event, invite the mum. Don't feel you can't invite them just because. I think some people feel left out, and I think also I had one client who said to me that their colleagues did not include them in emails just because they were part-time, and you know, I was a bit like, wow, you know, it shouldn't be like that. You're still part of the team, you know.
absolutely.
I think that's what colleagues have to remember. You're still part of the team regardless, and you should be included in everything. Don't forget, just because they might not be in that day or they're working from home that day and they're not in the office, doesn't matter. They're still part of the team. You should still make them feel welcome. You know, if you're organising events, you know, don't think, oh, they're a mum anyway, they probably won't come. Won't invite them.
It's been about the invites, making people feel included.
Yeah.
Definitely. So where can people find you, find out a bit more about what you do and connect with you?
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn, and under Dipal Shah, and you can also find me on Instagram under Diva Coaching. I do have a Facebook page, but I tend to use Instagram a lot more. And you should be able to find my contact details. You can email me, you can DM me. Feel free to, if you want any information, if you want to give me feedback on today as well, feel free to do so. Or if there's any information that I can give you or help you, any tools that might help you as well. You know, if you are going back to work and you want a little bit more, I'm happy to do that.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thank you for everyone that has watched today. And obviously, if you've got any questions for Dipal, you can send them to me after, and we'll make sure that Dipal answers them. I hope everyone's learned a lot. I've definitely learned a lot. So thank you so much to everyone that's watched today. And thank you to you, Dipal, for all your time. It's been brilliant. So thank you.
No, thank you for having me.
Thank you. See you soon. Thank you.